hard work beats talent when talent don't work. You know what I mean? So you got to have it both. And, it's not taking away from something, but at some point you are going to hit your physical ceiling. And some people's ceilings are higher.
Jared, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thank you very much.
I want to start sort of back at the beginning and talk about what made you want to be a cop. When did you realize that that's what you wanted to do?
With me, it was kind of more of I don't know if it was a calling or just the want to not grow up. My brother was a law enforcement officer, and I would ride with him when I was in high school and in college, and when I got done with college. And I still liked the camaraderie, the locker room mentality. I played sports through, so I loved the freedom of it and being and hanging with your friends and doing good things.
That's pretty cool. So, I mean, you knew sort of early on and probably didn't do too much crazy stuff or didn't get caught doing too much crazy stuff so that you could have a clean background to go that direction.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know if it was because, I was always an athlete anyway. So, we're not allowed to get in trouble anyway. So, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, let's talk about your career. Sounds like you weren't there very long before you went to SWAT. So tell us about how that worked. You got out of the academy, you started working patrol initially, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, got out of the academy, started working in our courthouse at first. Worked there for roughly 6 months, then went to patrol. And then after my 3 years, I was able to try out for the SWAT team. I tried out for the SWAT team. And our team is a full-time team, but not necessarily once you make it. You might have to do time on patrol, and and then your secondary duty would be SWAT for a little while until you were able to. We called it the SWAT office until you were able to be brought up into the office.
That's very cool. Hey, so I also worked in the jail for a short time, about 5 months before working patrol. What was that like? Were you like me and sort of shocked by some of the antics and stuff? I was 24. I'm imagining you were pretty young as well.
Right.
Was it kind of a shock working in there?
I was. It wasn't a shock because the jails, the correction side of things at the courthouse it's kind of wild just dealing with inmates, and you kind of learn how to talk to people and deal with stuff because you are unarmed a lot of times, and it's just either you can talk your way out of it or you got to fight your way out of it. You know what I mean? And
yeah, you sort of learn what to look for, I think.
Yeah, and I think working in the courthouse also was just a great thing for my later in life, learning how to testify, watching people who did really well understanding how the court systems work and things like that really helped. Probably in me building cases and doing stuff like that when I was working as a policeman.
Very cool. Yeah, you learn a lot about how criminals act, criminal conduct, and you also learn how to conduct yourself, because if you act like Billy Badass, you can be taken out pretty quick. But at the same time, if you're a pushover, you're going to be taken advantage of as well. So you learn to, you learn how to sort of act around that and how to recognize stuff. So I think that's very cool. So was 3 years the earliest that you could apply for SWAT?
Yes, at that time.
Okay. Yeah. And was it I would imagine it's pretty rare for someone with 3 years on to get that.
Yes. And I kind of hit it at a perfect time. We were, Super Bowl was coming to Jacksonville, so we were upping the size of our team and things like that. So, the kind of when I was trying out, I hit it right where it wasn't the one they were taking the onesie twosies. You know what I mean? They took 6 of us, I think, at that time.
Nice. Well, it worked out well. Well, tell us what kept you going, man. Initially when you get on SWAT, it's super cool. And I was on a part-time team my whole career, a collateral duty. But I always liked that. That was my favorite aspect of policing was SWAT. I gravitated toward the tactical stuff. I was a detective for 6 months. I think they did that before I promoted, just so I would have some idea of how that worked back there in investigations. But I always liked SWAT, and it was very exciting. But I was never doing that full time. Some of my buddies at larger agencies were full time SWAT, and I know it could get to be sort of a grind what kept you going, man, for 17 years of training, over 1,000 SWAT operations I saw you had. I mean, that's pretty impressive. What kept you motivated?
Man, I love it. I loved doing the work. I loved, um, like being part of taking down the worst of the worst and doing things like that and being the fix. I loved it.
Awesome. And you had a leadership role on the team too, right?
Yeah. So the highest I was an assistant team leader, because the assistant team leaders are like almost appointed, not by your rank and things like that. So like I took that role seriously because that was kind of one that was put on by my peers and by my supervisors, not, hey, I took a test and now I'm a sergeant, so you
Yes.
have to get it.
I know exactly what you're talking about, brother. We had some of that where, I mean, not to talk negatively about the guys, but it's like once you promoted to sergeant, there were so few sergeants on the team that they would like almost automatically take on a leadership role. And it's like, well, dude, this dude may be good at, supervision, maybe, have the attributes to supervise a patrol crew, but that doesn't mean he should be a SWAT assistant team leader. So yeah, that's right. Cool. That's something that I think you could be proud of for sure. And then you were a firearms instructor as well for the team, huh?
Yep. Yeah. So lead firearms instructor for several years, and with a senior CQB instructor also. And so I never promoted. So like I got to do everything on our SWAT team. So like, I mean, like on a full-time SWAT team, like we all have several specialties. So, I did the breaching, the sniping, explosive mechanical breaching, waterborne team, K9 integration. The only thing I didn't do was rappelling because I didn't want to be a rope master because I don't like heights too much.
You and me both, brother. You and me both.
And, and with less lethal and all the stuff that we had to do, I mean, it was just cool that I was able to experience it all because I didn't promote and didn't go through it, And I think we had a really good culture of even the team leaders who kind of knew maybe they shouldn't be a team leader. They had good. They're going to become, but maybe they didn't have enough time on the team before they tested and became a sergeant, and they relied on their assistant team leaders a lot. Like, he kind of look at you because what the mission's going to take while he goes in with the other team leaders and is planning the mission. I'm with the fellas. Hey guys, we're going to need this equipment, blank, 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 blank. So when he comes out, he's not worried about that. He knows that he just has to tell us what we're doing. And I've already taken care of, the who's got what's.
Yeah. And as they say in that world, the reward for a job well done is more work, right? So I'm sure they relied on you a lot once they figured out you knew what you were doing and you're going to do a great job. That's nuts. So what's a day in the life of a full-time SWAT cop in Jacksonville? Like I know you guys were doing warrant service, probably all kinds of different stuff, but just what might a typical day look like?
So if you show up at 8 a.m., you're in jeans and a t-shirt because you don't know what you're doing that day. You might have warrants planned, you might not. We also do a lot of the fugitive apprehensions. So if like you have one of people in your team, like, hey, I got, you might not have anybody, but someone on your team might have somebody. So the team's going out and we're hunting for people and doing things. And kind of nothing's going on, you're going to go to the range. You're going to, your team leaders are like, all right, let's go hit some CQB. Let's go do some stuff. We're, blessed by having a live fire shoot houses, full ranges to our, everything accessible to us that, if you're not doing a mission, you're preparing for a mission.
That's awesome. Is that how you ended up spending time or working with Department of Homeland Security? Were you on a task force, or was that just, were you working alongside them for certain operations?
Working alongside them. So
okay.
I was never like tasked. What are they? They're not FT. They're tactical, like a TFO. Like for like, how some guys get dual sworn, like FBI, ATF.
Yes.
So we had those, some of our guys were that. So we worked in with them, but again, just doing a lot of the apprehensions and the violent criminal history stuff.
Let me ask you, I don't know if you're involved in the selection process at all, but regardless, 17 years as a full-time SWAT, you're more than qualified to answer this question. What are some of the attributes that you look for in someone who aspires to be a SWAT cop?
Man, I'll tell you, you better be in shape. You better be humble and just have that willingness to learn. You know, a lot of times people that are in really good shape kind of become cocky and, you know, they know the best because they're in shape. It's a different world than just being in shape. Like, that's the only thing you bring us as a new SWAT guy. You probably don't shoot as well as us. You don't move as well as us. We don't know how you perform under pressure. So all you're bringing to us is someone in shape and not willing to quit. Because, I mean, if you're in shape, that just kind of shows us that you have discipline, you know, because you're probably going to be, you know, mid-20s when you're trying out. And so you've done something to show that you have discipline over time and things like that. But most of it is just being humble and willing to learn and, you know, understanding your place when you step into a room full of men. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to learn from you guys if they come there already knowing everything, for sure. And when they are that young and sort of the only thing they're bringing to the team is fitness and potential, they better at least bring those. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Jared, I know you've trained with a lot of really top tier firearms instructors. What do you think separates some of the great firearms instructors from some of the average instructors?
Relatability. Like, how can you take your skills and your experiences and relate them? I mean, even that goes from, like, you know, competition shooting to top mill guys that are now teaching law enforcement, but just understanding your audience and being able to talk to them. And, hey guys, this is how this is going to help you. And this is how this is not going to help you. You can't really do this. You know, I've been in some classes, I've been taught by the best, but I've also been taught by the worst. You know what I mean? Whenever you get we are a very well funded and well supported team. So we had a lot of training and some of it's just not great. And just because somebody was somewhere they're probably great at their job and being able to do it, but that doesn't make them great at training and relating it and being able to push their information to someone so they can understand it and really help somebody.
That was perfectly stated, brother. I think you're absolutely right. It's weird because I've trained with some people, like professional shooters, some of the best shooters in the world, but I didn't take much away from it because it seemed to me that maybe they don't know what makes them so good, or if they do know, they may be a great shooter, but they're not necessarily a great communicator. And so I'd rather have someone maybe that's not quite that level of a performer, but could transmit his knowledge or her knowledge onto the student. That's always the difficulty, being able to demonstrate and also being able to explain. And as a firearms instructor, this is always the most challenging thing for me, is watching someone, seeing them not having the success that they want and diagnosing and correcting what it is. Is it their grip? Are they slapping the trigger? Those type of things. So yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. And I think some of it comes from a little bit of like humility and stuff, because when they talk, sometimes they don't want to really talk about how good they are. And I'm like, hey man, you're like the top in the world. Like you are an NFL player. Like a lot of people, when it comes to guns, people think you can train and if you train enough, you'll be able to hit this level. At some point, 100%. Their athleticism and their hand-eye coordination is something above the average human. That's how they're able to be grandmasters in this stuff. And I think that they don't really relate that because maybe they're not great at football, so they don't feel like it's athletic. But shooting is very athletic. It is very hand-eye coordinated, related, and like buffer speed of what you can see, very visual.
Dude, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. That's something that I try to explain a lot. I don't know if I've explained it as well as you just did, but that's absolutely true. You know, no one picks up a Wilson, NFL football and throws it and thinks, well, now that I have this, I can be, Roger Staubach. Well, I'm dating myself by throwing Roger Staubach out there, but you know what I'm saying? But people do see that. They go, oh, look at, name whatever pro shooter, Todd Jarrett or whatever. If I had that gun, then I could. No, you can't, dude. Just like the NFL player has these attributes, And not only does he have physical attributes that he's probably born with, but he's spent every day for how many years perfecting those attributes. Whereas most shooters, most casual shooters, and most cops can't do that.
Yeah. Like what, Tim Tebow said it, hard work beats talent when talent don't work. You know what I mean? So you got to have it
That's
both. And,
yeah, absolutely.
It's not taking away from something, but at some point you are going to hit your physical ceiling, and some people's ceilings are higher.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can always strive to improve, but you have to be realistic that not everybody has the potential to be an elite pro level shooter for sure.
I feel like these pros come out and I'm kind of like, hey man, that's, and I say at my classes, that's like Superman trying to teach you to fly. You're going to the top of a building and he's like, yeah, man, just jump. You know what I mean? And you're like, I don't think this is going to work. Yeah.
That's a great analogy. Speaking of potential, what do you think, how important are the mental aspects? And we can relate this to law enforcement. We can relate this to the private citizen, but obviously you have to have physical skills, fitness, gun handling, marksmanship. But how important are the mental aspects to surviving and winning, a deadly force encounter?
I mean, it's not everything, but it's up there. You know what I mean? Because, there's a lot of luck involved in gunfights. Like I've been very, very lucky, you know what I mean? And then your mindset will just help you take advantage of the luck that is given to you. And then your hard skills is what's going to take you past winning. You know what I mean? You might want to do something or like shooting back and like people think shooting's very easy. It's not. Like the only reason you go to the range and train so it becomes easy is so you have some of that brain power in reserve to fix the problem. So I can think about the problem. The answer is just shooting the person. But if I'm still worried about that problem, I'm not worried about the answer. You know what I mean? It gets just all jumbled up. I think the calmer you can be in a storm, the better you're going to solve the problems, the better you're going to shoot. I don't like when firearms instructors always act like it's going to be a very scary situation. Shooting people is a stressful situation. And I've had them where it's scary for me, and I've had it where it's not scary for me. It's scary for somebody else, but it's always stressful. So don't think about it as, life or death at the ATM. I mean, this is for civilians, police, and anybody. It could just be this person needs shot. And that's the answer. And just clear your mind and get ready to do it.
No, that's, again, very well stated. I've had a lot of martial arts instructors say things like, expect to get cut in a knife fight. And it's like, dude, that's going in there, in my opinion, with the wrong mentality. Like, if this dude cuts me with a knife, so be it. But I'm not going to go in there thinking, well, this isn't going to be over until I get cut. Just like you don't go into a shooting expecting to get shot. You realize that that's a possibility, and you're prepared to work through that if that needs to be. But with mindset, one of the things that I always struggle with, and I want to get your take as a very experienced SWAT guy and as a very experienced instructor, is you can teach technique, but it's harder to teach someone to have that mindset. In other words, it's harder to instill in a student like the ability for them to put their sights on a real person, a real bad guy, and press the trigger. I mean, what types of things do you think can help train someone to be able to use deadly force when that's warranted in order to save themselves or someone else?
I feel like if you just train it enough, you're never really deciding to shoot somebody. They make the decision for you. Your job is just to do it. And being around people who've done it and being around people who are supported when doing it, supporting people after it, if they're not worried about like the repercussions of doing it right, because even when people do it right, you know what I mean? It's never perfect. It's never a perfect job. And if you're trying to strive for perfection, it's not going to be there. So, I mean, just being around guys who've done it, who maybe even it went a little wrong, policy stuff, not law stuff, and you come out okay. And like that to me is building a culture of doing a job that may need to be done.
Very well stated. What are some of the takeaways from your time as a deputy, and particularly as a full-time SWAT guy? I know you learned a ton. You can't describe it to us in a few minutes here, but what are some of like the key takeaways that you've learned that you pass along to your students, whether it's situational awareness, whether it's knowledge of the law, or whether it's, fitness?
One of the
what
biggest
things did you
things
take
I've
away?
learned, one of the biggest things I've learned is you're not the only killer in the room. And what I mean by that is everybody tries to, it just may not be your day to get in that shooting, like on CQB. Like a lot of people try to I tried to get up there to do this. Hey man, you just cut off that guy. You're not better than that guy. You're not. So opening it up to being more of a team-based sport and understand that, hey, it might not happen for you. And it wasn't your time right then. So like, that would be the biggest thing is, just understanding you're not the only killer in the room, and do your job. And sometimes you'll get blessed with maybe doing some action or doing something, but don't try to make it happen when it's not there in your area of responsibility.
That reminds me of guys that are like going code 3, passing other cops going code 3 and stuff like that. Yeah, it's
right.
Everybody
it's
wants to be
first
thing.
And it's everybody is out, like, and they got that tunnel vision, and it's hard to to kick guys, especially coming from patrol, and they might be by themselves a lot, to now into a team environment, and it's hard for them to kick. And that's what you got to put it in, that this is now a team sport, and just do your job. And you can't do their job for them. They have to do their job, and then the job gets done.
Yeah, everyone has their area of responsibilities, and when everybody focuses on one thing, the team is vulnerable. So yeah,
but you'll always see people trying to do other people's area of responsibilities. So if I'm triple covering it, then time's being wasted, right? I need it covered and just covered enough, and then we're out, right? I don't need to keep doing it over and over and over again because you don't trust that person or whatever. Like, you just feel like so letting loose of those reins is tough for people, and you just got to learn to do it.
And speaking of that, letting loose of the reins a little bit, tell us about your transition from being an operator on the team to being an assistant team leader, because in many ways, at least in my experience, which is very limited compared to yours, the team leaders are kind of taking more of a back seat and sort of seeing the big picture as opposed to being point or sniper or whatever else is going on.
Yeah.
Of course, their sniper has their own team leaders, but
yeah. So yes and no. So team leaders and assistant team leaders, we get paid the big bucks to really make that one decision of hold left, go right, or something like that. Because other than that, we're assaulters.
They're filling and flowing.
You're working. So we have an overall command, which is our tactical leader. So TAC has really Overwatch, and no one else really talks on the radios or reports what's happening except for team leaders. Unless something needs to be said. Team leaders are assistant teams. So that was just how our culture was. So I only did something before and after. But during the work, you're an assaulter, and you can't let your skills lack. So like that's when some team leaders think they take that leadership role and they back away of like training and like I'm gonna go watch my fellas train. Our teams really didn't do that. Like, you better be in there showing the fellas that you can still work, you can still shoot and move, and and just get your jobs done at the end. Like, that's really all we are, is like the admin side of things.
You guys were leading from the front, man. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and we just built a culture of that, and it's been like that like my whole career.
I know that during the past several years, there's been this push like for the demilitarization of law enforcement. And at my own agency, which is about 75 officers or so kind of a mid-sized agency in Northern California, there were times that a situation rose to the level of a SWAT call out, but our administrators chose not to deploy SWAT because they didn't want the newspaper to have a bunch of SWAT guys out there with helmets and, balaclavas and all that stuff and carbines.
Yeah.
But by doing that, what the naive person doesn't understand is that when SWAT's there, everyone is more safe. It's not that we're going to send SWAT to make a situation more dangerous. We're sending SWAT because these are the best trained dudes. These are the best equipped dudes, and they work together. So, and they have resources that others don't have. So, I mean, obviously, I think we have to have equipment, and we have to be kitted out in such a way that's going to help us. I mean, we're not going in there as patrol officers with limited resources. It's safer not only for us to be well equipped or militarized, which is a ridiculous word, but it's also better for everyone involved. Everyone is more safe when SWAT's there as opposed to patrol.
150%. SWAT's not what you're wearing. It's what's in your head. I've done a lot of great SWAT stuff in blue jeans and a t-shirt with a vest over it. You know what I mean? And doing a lot of tactical things. Mm-hmm. But it's just the problem solving, the amount of training that SWAT team gets over an average patrolman is quadruple. So, like, I don't know. It's not just, they don't just give this stuff, like, they don't kid a guy out and be like, all right, now you're SWAT. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how it goes nowadays. You have higher shooting standards, you have training, you have the equipment, and the price you pay for all that is you're going to get trained a lot more. You're going to do a lot of things, and it is safer because I think SWAT guys with a little bit more confidence in it, we let things play out a little bit more. We understand we might get shot at, we might get this, like, our Bearcat's going to get shot. Okay, we're in a Bearcat. We're good. You know what I mean? We're not overreacting to these things, and the more you do them, the playbook plays out. And they talk about the militarization of police, and it blows my mind, right? If you look back in the 80s, like the 70s, right? The militarization of police wasn't there because the militarization of criminals wasn't there. Crack changed the game. As soon as, like, before, you'd go get a drug dealer or something like that, you'd knock on the door and be like, hey, you're selling lewds at the club or something, and they arrest. Crack changed the game. That's when they did fortified buildings, arming themselves with automatic weapons and out-arming the police. So you want to talk about militarization of police? We are just reaction to what we're coming against. Everything we have is something that we learned a lesson. We are probably outgunned, so now we have these. These are lessons learned in blood. It's not that we have TOW missiles and we're calling in airstrikes. That's like a military thing. We have the same guns. We're on an equal playing field. We're just better trained.
Yeah. Look at the North Hollywood shootout. You know what I mean? These guys are scrambling around, and that was the impetus for, the widespread implementation of patrol rifles. And that's something that, we didn't invent a reason for that. That played out.
And then you looked at it and they're like, oh, well, what do you need all these rifles for and all this? They didn't need all those rifles. They needed one guy to show up and he showed up and he handled business with a rifle, and it took about a magazine. Instead of that whole long shootout, a patrolman would have been able to handle that instead of waiting 45 minutes for the SWAT team to get there. And
yeah, that's a perfect example.
It's crazy that that you complain about these things. We're solving problems. And you're solving them much quicker. A pistol wasn't getting that job done. One round with a rifle put that thing down.
Yeah, and the more efficiently and the faster that you can stop a deadly threat, the safer it is, not just for the cops, but for the people that we are all obligated and sworn to protect. So that's huge.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about how many rounds they put into that neighborhood.
It's just blind luck that more people weren't injured from that incident or killed. It's just crazy. Let's talk a little bit about the incident that you were involved in 2008, Jared. Can you kind of walk us through that sort of from the beginning, what type of call it was and what happened?
Yeah. So I wasn't on a call. I was working off duty at one of our local malls. I was on the SWAT team, but nowhere near a SWAT thing. This is just working off duty, full police uniform, stopping shoplifters and fights and things at the mall, minor crimes. We were notified of a shoplifter. Me and my partner weren't able to get out there to help with the stop, but we brought it up on camera, and you saw a white male and a black male exit the store. You saw loss prevention, identify themselves. The white male began to fight immediately, so me and my partner took off out of the security office, kind of ran from the north side of the mall to the south side of the mall. By the time we got there, the white man, they were dusting the guy off. They already had him in cuffs, and hey, as we're checking on him, everybody good? Yeah, everybody's good. The black guy also stole something, and we would like him apprehended. So about 75 yards across the parking lot was a large bus stop. So the suspect separated himself from the group at the bus stop to kind of see what was happening with his buddy, and they're like, he's right there. So he sees us see him, that big suspect moment, and he was like, and he takes off running. So me and my partner give chase. We end up going across Arlington Expressway, which is a 6-lane highway. And this happened about 7:40 at night. So, we were doing some Frogger. We made it across. Me and my partner were cutting through the parking lot when he got trapped by the front of the businesses and was running along the front of the shopping center. Me and my partner were cutting through the parking lot. Before he got to the corner of the building, I saw his legs kind of wobble, and I was like, ooh, I got him. You know what I mean? I saw that lactic acid build up. So I told my partner, I said, hey, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to go get him. So I picked it up. I made it to the corner. I drew my taser because at that point I had possibly a retail theft and resisting an officer, 2 misdemeanors. So drew my taser, told him to stop or I'd tase him. He turns around and looks at me and he puts his hands up like this, but continues to walk backwards. He doesn't talk or say anything, but he continues to go backwards. I keep giving him commands, hey, stop or I'm going to tase you. He turns and starts running again. So I run a little bit further with him. I put the laser on the back of his back. I squeeze the trigger, and nothing happens. Not a pop, not a discharge, nothing. So I look back down at my taser, and the LED readout's counting down. And now I'm closing the gap on him. So I had to safe it, holster it, go hands on with him. So as soon as I went hands on with him, he spun real fast and he went up into a fighting stance. I was like, all right, well, we're fighting. So we started fighting. Then seconds into that, he produced a Glock 21, which is a 45 caliber Glock. And he shot me right here through the jaw. It exited out my neck and then hit me in the body armor. Then I took 2 more in the body armor. One in my left thigh, my left thigh above the knee, exited out high in my thigh. Grazed of my right elbow and one into my right buttock, and then went and hit my hip and broke my hip. So as all that's happening, I was able to return fire and kill him.
Wow. And that's near contact distance. I mean, how close were you when he produced this?
It went exactly from contact because when we were fighting, I never even saw the gun. I felt the impact to my face, and we were kind of on a dried retention pond, on the up bank. So I started rolling down it to my left, and I was thinking, Jared, get up, get up. When you get punched and you're kind of dazed, that's kind of how I was like, Jared, get up, get up. He caught you with a good one, get up. And I could feel in my tongue that my jaw has now collapsed on top of itself, and my teeth are laying horizontal in my mouth. So I was like, this might not be a punch. So I look up, and that's when he's standing over me, shooting me. As I'm kind of dusting off the cobwebs and getting ready to go, he was kind of walking away. And every time I would move, he'd shoot back at me. But when I drew my pistol laying on my back and started engaging him, strong hand only from my back, I was pushing up to get to my feet, but I never made it to my feet. I just made it to my knees. He started closing back on me. So when he got close enough, as he was closing back on me, I lunged up, grabbed him, pulled him to me, and I put my muzzle to his head, and I gave him 3 contact shots to the top of his head, putting that fight over with.
Wow. Yeah, you want to talk about mindset? All you have to do is listen to that story. That is incredible, man. and a prime example of just how fast something can go from relatively mundane to literally a fight for your life.
Oh, right. And that's what I mean. That's why, I speak all over the country about that, because it was a shoplifting call, and how it could just go from these, and it just escalate, and just how you don't know what the crime you're responding to, and what that person's done in the past.
And was that during daylight hours?
Just after dusk. So it happened January
Okay.
26th. So 7:40 at night. So it was dusk, but it happened under street lights. So it was pretty well lit.
Wow. So after that incident, I mean, immediately after, so the suspect's down, you're severely wounded. Your partner is still in the area, so he's calling for help for you.
Oh yeah, he was where I attempted to tase him. That's kind of where he was when the gunfire happened, and it's crazy because you can hear he was calling in the foot pursuit, and then you hear the gunfight happen in the background. So he started calling in the foot pursuit, and then the gunfight happened. But we ran through a parking lot, and it was like a storage place. So they also rent U-Hauls. So there was a bunch of U-Hauls. So he couldn't see me, but I mean, I was, 25 yards from him when it happened.
Jared, tell me about your recovery from that.
I mean, 6 months. I mean, it was long. You know what I mean? I got back to work, back on the SWAT team at 6 months, but like I had several surgeries after it. Like I wasn't done with it for probably 8 years. Like getting teeth and doing things, because it just totally destroyed my jaw. Like I don't have any feeling in my face. So kind of like getting all that stuff was probably 8 years. So over those 8 years, I probably missed a total of a year and a half. Like I'd have to get a surgery and be out for 6 months or something like that, and just different things. So, I mean, it was trying. I think the hardest part mostly was my jaw being wired shut. Like the pain was whatever, but like my jaw being wired shut. I'm not the smallest individual, so I like to eat and stuff like that. And like just that mental of living for 8 weeks on liquid. I mean, it was tough. It was trying.
During that incident, during your fight there for your life, literally, do you remember like things that you were thinking, or was it just like you were just back to your training? You were just almost instinctive.
I was back to my training. I mean, it was just like it was really doing it. Like I'm just like, I was giving it to him, and I'm just like, go down, bro, go down. And I was like, all right. And then when I remember like grabbing him and putting my muzzle to his head, that was almost like stuff that I've done in training so much. I had a great defensive tactics instructor, and like his thing was like, hey, screw that Glock into their ear and let it eat. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happened. And it was kind of weird that, you are going to resort to your training. You are going to go back. Like even after I killed him, his body went limp. I wanted to handcuff him. You know what I mean? And like make sure that my partner doesn't so there was a culvert there. So I kind of rolled him into this culvert, and I started kicking him into the culvert and me away the whole time, still keeping my cover on him till my partner could get there and take care of this. You know what I mean? People think that you're like thinking so rational. I knew he was dead. I felt his life leave him. I rolled him but I was not going to take my pistol off of him. I didn't know if he's a vampire or, what horror movie this guy came from. And you were going to resort to your training. So your lack of training and your lack of things to fall back on, that's what's going to hurt you. It's not that you can't be overtrained.
Very well stated, brother. And so from this incident, from your actions that day and overcoming, I mean, overwhelming odds at point blank range, that rightly so earned you some honors and awards. And I know you're a humble dude, but tell us a little bit about that and kind of how that went down.
I mean, it was pretty amazing. It started with like the Police Officers Hall of Fame. I got their National Police Officer of the Year. And then later on, I got Florida's Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. And then shortly after that, I got the Presidential Medal of Valor from Barack Obama, it's a pretty awesome, meeting the guys that were there, that like the club that I belong in was pretty awesome to listen to these guys' stories and things like that. And it's nice to be recognized for, doing sometimes things that have to be done, and it's not always frowned upon.
I bet. Have you done some like keynote speaking or some like debriefs or about this incident?
Oh yeah, we do. I do them quite often.
I bet.
Yeah, a lot of tactical officer associations, a lot of police conferences and things like that, for sure.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now with your company. Are you providing training for private citizens? Or are you just focusing on like LE, or tell us a little bit about the type of training you're doing?
Yeah. So I would say we're based for LE, but all our shooting classes are probably 50-50 civilians. You know what I mean? So we do train civilians, especially shooting and things like that. And I love civilians to be there because I want responsible citizens. I want people to be able to do it, because the police aren't always going to be there. And like, you know what I mean? Your family and your safety is your responsibility. Don't try to put it off on the police and then talk bad when they're not there, when you did nothing to prepare. So I love civilians being there. And I always, you'll get some officers that like, how do you teach people how to shoot? Like, how to shoot like we shoot. What if they turn it against us? I was like, you can't worry about that. You know what I mean? Like, these people are good people. They're law-abiding citizens. They're trying to protect themselves. And I'll tell you straight up, none of these training companies would exist without these civilians coming to train, because they're picking up half your bill. You know what I mean? Because
yes,
very few police departments pay for training as much as they should.
And it's an open source world that we live in, brother. Like, I remember at the beginning when I was teaching stuff too, that I was always nervous, or my friends would be like, hey, aren't you afraid that the bad guys are going to read this article and learn something or go to one of your courses? It's like, dude, the information's out there. It's just a matter of seeking it and then training it. That's the big thing. You can read an article. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to apply the concepts that are presented in the article.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm not really a gamer, but I've seen some video games that the characters or whatever are using SWAT tactics. I mean, it's like you can literally find a lot of this stuff in video games. I mean, it's out there. We just want the good guys to get access to it too.
Right. And just shooting's fun. Like getting out there, hanging out with like-minded people. Like a weekend class is an experience for most people. Like, they take vacation to do it. They pay a lot of money to be there, not only for the class, but most of them travel and they get a hotel and then they pay for ammo. And like some of these officers are complaining. I'm like, bro, you got free ammo, a free hotel. You know what I mean? Like, this is the life. Just sitting there hanging out, talking and with like-minded. It's great. Like, I love the civilian side of things, because a lot of them can really, and it opens up a lot of young police officers' eyes that there are people out here that can get it on. You know what I mean? So maybe you should watch your tone a little bit when you talk to somebody.
No, you're absolutely right there. So what types of courses do you offer? Pistol, carbine? What type of class do you teach?
So pistol, both pistol, rifle. We do tactics. We, all SWAT classes, anything you can think of, SWAT related, sniper related. A lot of event Overwatch stuff is kind of what we're doing now. A lot of SPR work. And like for civilians, all that stuff is for civilians. But then we'll do like a room clearing class for a civilian, because I like them to, if they had to move in their own house, to kind of understand how to safely, get in and out of a room and things like that. I mean, they're more kind of individual tactics, because they're not really going to have a team when they show up to clear their own house or whatever. But
yeah, that's a big deal, man. Even for me, as a cop, you got to figure out like, okay, so what you do with a team of guys when your goal is to go in there and apprehend this guy and overwhelm him is not the same type of room clearing you would do off duty or as a private citizen when your kid's screaming down the hall. So no, I think it's great that you distinguish that or differentiate that. That's hugely important. Yeah. It's big about people knowing their goal and training. Again, we talk about this a lot, but LE's goal is different than military, which is different than a private citizen. So you got to understand what goal you're training for, and understand that not everything from the military world will transfer, or law enforcement, is going to transfer to the private sector. So
yeah. And then you just kind of got to understand, do I think that every gun carrying person needs a CQB? Probably not every. But if you feel like you have a duty to respond, like you're not even in law enforcement, you do taxes, but you've always been a protector, and you just maybe just have the wrong job right now. Like during an active shooter, you probably should know a little bit of like movement stuff to help that edge if you're going to respond. Like we have a lot of church security people now and doing things like that, where it's not their job during the week to do this stuff, but they volunteer to do it because it's probably in one of their callings, or they're just a protector by nature. They should have some sort of CQB, because a lot of it's just creating angles and being able to work angles and work them to your advantage.
Yeah, if you're going to get involved, you might as well prepare yourself. If you know you're going to get sucked into this incident because that's your nature, which is a cool thing, I think, then have some training to give yourself every advantage.
Oh, for sure.
Hey, so last question about the company stuff, and I want to move on to one other topic, but where's your company based out of, and is your training all done there, like on site, or do you travel around to do courses?
No, so we're based out of St. Augustine, Florida, and we do zero training here on site.
Okay.
Like we are have gun will travel trainers. I'm involved with a few ranges that like I train a lot, like Ridgeline Defense up there in New Hampshire. I'm involved with them, so I'll do training there. But most of it's you contact me, like an agency will contact me, or we'll do something and work out, have a host, and we'll work out a course.
That's awesome. Jared, you're doing some work with, or you're working for Safariland these days, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah. I got approached by them like right before my retire. I didn't even know I could retire, actually. So I got approached by Safariland and said, "Hey, Jared, when can you retire? When you coming on board?" Because ever since my shooting, Safariland has the Safariland Saves Club. So it's one of the hardest clubs. The initiation sucks to get in, but it's a pretty cool club afterward. But so I've always been, since my shooting, I've been part of the Safariland family. But I mean, I knew that I was not ever going to give up law enforcement right away. I was going back and doing it. So I had 19 and a half years on, and I was like, they asked me if I could, wanted to start working. And I was like, well, let me see if I can retire. So like I called HR, and they're like, yeah, with your built up leave and all this, you could leave in 16 days. And I was like, all right. And sat down, talked to my wife and talked to my friends, and we talked about it. And I put my 2 weeks notice into my career, and it was tough because I love it. I still love it. I still miss it. I still could do it. But the opportunity they were giving me might not be there later when I was ready to be done. The financial things would like almost double my salary, would change my kids' lives. You know what I mean? And so I walked away, and
And you're doing something that's related and something that you also love, which I think really helps in the transition from either military or law enforcement to the private sector.
Oh, for sure.
What do you do there for Safariland? And tell me how it's going. First of all, when did you retire?
2020.
Okay.
So I've been there. In October will be my 5th year here at Safariland. I started as an account manager, which is kind of sales. So I was North Florida, South Georgia sales. And last month I was promoted. Now I am their duty gear technical specialist. So I'm kind of out of the sales realm and more development, sales, helping, sales training on people with all things duty gear that Safariland makes. So
that's awesome. And Safariland, for those who don't know, Safariland has long been the industry leader in holsters for law enforcement, duty holsters, and everything else. And Higginbotham is making them equally relevant in the concealed carry sector too.
Yes,
So
yes.
now I love Safariland stuff. It's virtually all I carried as a cop, except for there was a couple times when we would experiment with like a different holster. But yeah, it always went back to Safariland. So
Yeah, I
good
mean the
stuff,
holster
man.
is the
That's
gold
awesome.
standard. Yeah, the holster's the gold
Yes.
standard,
Yep.
and we're still pushing it. It's just a great company to work for. And I mean, I couldn't be happier right now. So it's everything's going, and like you said, it's an easy transition because I still get to hang out with the fellas. I still see guys. They still allow me to train like agencies and do things. So it's all good things. Because I mean, that's kind of when one of my best friends, I was talking to him, and he promoted up through. He's a chief with the sheriff's office, and we went to high school together, played football together. We got hired together, and he went the promotion route, and I was just talking to him about it, and he's like, "Well, Jared, here's the deal. How many doors have you kicked?" I'm like, "Thousands." He's like, "When are you gonna get tired of it?" And I was like, "I probably never will." And he's like, "Well, then leave, because right now you're just being selfish. I mean, you're doing it for your own good, not your kids, not your wife, not, what I mean? And it's just, you're never going to be happy.
That's an interesting perspective.
What I mean? You're never going to be happy when you leave. So you might as well leave with some good things happening. So
that's awesome. Well, congratulations on the promotion. And maybe you can just talk one more question, then we'll kind of wrap up. But tell us how important it is that you're confident in the gear that you use. I mean, whether you're SWAT, whether you're a private citizen, there's two things to this question. One is, I think some people, they just think if they have all the best gear, they don't need to train. And other people think, I bought this $800 gun, but I'm going to put it in this $15 universal nylon holster. You know what I'm saying? So talk a little bit about that, how gear is important to your overall success.
You don't need the newest, flashiest gear. You just need top quality, like proven gear. And why that's so important is I know that, Jared Reston is probably the weakest link and the most inaccurate person in my weapon system. You know what I mean? If I know that I'm zeroed, like, I got a great Aimpoint optic, you know what I mean? I know it's zeroed. If I miss a shot, that's because Jared did it, not because, like, you know what I mean? If I can just free up all the bandwidth and I'm not worried about anything else, I'm just worried about fixing this problem. Where do I need to hold this dot? Where do I need to do this? Because I know that this stuff is reliable. I know my gun's not going to malfunction. I know I can count on these things working. It frees up your brain. Like, it just lets you fix the problem.
You can just concentrate on your part. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I'm just worrying about pulling a trigger and like, all right, here we go. It's going to hit. I mean, that's competition. That's anything. Like, I've watched guys in competition with, like, they got a great gun, but they throw cheap optic on it, or they do something and they're shooting and the dot's there, but they're missing, but they don't know why they're missing. And it's just because it might be off, or it got bumped, or whatever it is. Or you come out and your dot's not there. Your sighting system's not there. It's a lot of things that you don't really, and that's just losing a match, but it's still a lot of, it's still a lot of work and a lot of time that somebody put into it to do these things. So, I mean, having top quality stuff, proven equipment is key in my mind. Like, I will, and it's not, people think it's about their life. No, it's about the person's life that I'm trying to save. You know what I mean? I want everybody to have the best equipment. I don't want people running around with cheap guns and cheap holsters. It's not about you anymore. Now it's about protecting me and my community. You know what I mean? So it's crazy what people try to get away with because they're just cheap. You know what I mean? Well, this says it's the made. I was like, that exactly. Is not. It is garbage. Don't. And I'm buy once, cry once kind of deal. Like, you don't have to have the best every single time, but if you have something that's proven and reliable, it's like I still have 6004 level 2 Safariland holsters that I wore like on a drop leg. Still work great. I still have a Comp M3 on a gun, you know, an Aimpoint Comp M3. Like they work. It's gonna keep working, and you know, it's just what people will. They talk themselves into almost. They talk themselves into it.
Yeah. Very well stated, man. Hey, it was a great discussion with you, brother. I love talking to you, man. Your story is incredible. Congratulations on all the things you have going on right now. Where can people go if they're interested in getting training from you, or they just want to kind of keep up with the next projects that you're working on?
Yeah. So my website is restongrouptraining.com. On all social medias, it's Reston Group. Check us out, and we post and do things. You reach out to me through email or whatever, and I'm pretty good about getting back to everybody.
Jared, thank you so much for your time today, brother. It was great talking to you.
Hey, thank you very much for having me, bro.
Well, guys, that's a wrap for this episode with Jared Reston. If this episode resonated with you, be sure and let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Aimpoint's Taking Aim podcast. We'll see you next time.